Collective memory is the most essential of Jewish values. We commemorate and remember. The Torah represents this and embodies this. The holidays bring us back to times both real and mythical, so that we too will know the essential truths gained by our ancestors. It's quite easy to take this for granted, but the ability to know beyond our own memories, to pass information through the generations, is core to human survival and the essence of Judaism. It's why we're still here today, celebrating a pseudo-historical liberation that has been celebrated for millennia. The Exodus story really begins with a lack of knowing. V'yakom melech hadash al Mitzrayim asher lo yada et Yosef. A new king arose over Egypt who did not know Joseph. Joseph, at the end of the book of Genesis, had been the Pharaoh's right-hand man. He had led Egypt to its pinnacle of power in the region, which at that time was the world, and saved its inhabitants from famine. And here we find a new king who does not remember him. This lack of memory equates a lack of knowledge as well. This extends even further for this Pharaoh, for he says when Moses and Aaron first approach, I do not know the eternal, and I will not let Israel go. And so we see here a problem with Pharaoh's knowledge. The brilliant commentator Viva Zornberg puts it this way: a Pharaoh who does not know Joseph has denied vital links with his own past history. A traumatic absence haunts his realm. His edicts blunt feeling and awareness, even in the awareness of pain, even in his victims. In contrast to Pharaoh, God both remembers and knows the Israelites. The Torah tells us God heard their moaning and God remembered the covenant with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. God looked upon the Israelites and knew them. God is the one who remembers, who knows, and because of this, who can in fact redeem. Returning to Zornberg, she writes, in Midrashic literature, the climate of Mitzrayim, Egypt, is one of not knowing, not seeing, not hearing, not speaking. Conceived in mythical terms, Mitzrayim is the site of Meitzarim, straits, in which possibilities of memory, communication, and understanding are narrowed. The experience in these narrow places of unknowing are central to our Passover observance. The first declaration of these observances make it clear. Exodus 12:14 states, "This day shall be to you one of remembrance. You shall celebrate it as a festival to Adonai throughout the ages. You shall celebrate it as an institution for all time." Rashi, the classic rabbinic commentator, tells us the Torah, this teaches us that the day of the Exodus itself is the day which is to be the memorial. And so going out from this land of ignorance, the land of unknowing, is the memorial. We today must make sure that we do not end up ourselves in the land of unknowing. At the root of our story, we see Pharaoh representing willful unknowing, a failure of memory, a lack of consciousness. And then we see God representing willful knowing, a return of memory, a centering of consciousness. This consciousness of God's wins out as it is awakened in Moses and is awakened in the entire people Israel. The divine consciousness which we may today call Torah is the heart of our people, the heart of our tradition, our connection to God. And today, Passover is a day we are commanded from the earliest reaches of our mythopoetic time to enliven this consciousness within ourselves. This season of our freedom, this celebration of liberation, is one of liberation from darkness of mind, from silence of spirit. Passover is a remembrance of remembering. Passover is a call to each of us to be the ones being redeemed from Mitzrayim, from not knowing, from not seeing, from not hearing, from not speaking. It calls to us, too, to remember the words of God. The strangers who reside with you shall be to you as your citizens. You shall love each one as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Mitzrayim. To remember, K'ma'aseh eretz Mitzrayim asher yeshavtem ba lo ta'asu. Those things that were done in the land of Mitzrayim when you dwelled there, you shall not do. As we look out into the world today and see ourselves here, now, in this place, no longer constrained by Mitzrayim, becomes clear that it is up to us to do the work, to know and to remember. It is up to us to not allow ourselves to become ignorant to God, to ourselves, ignorant to the world. We must open our eyes and see what is before us, so as not to fall into the state of unconsciousness that is typified by Pharaoh in this story. When we see others being oppressed, we cannot adopt willful unknowing. The world today is not as the world was in the time of the Exodus. We have infinite ability to see, to learn, to read, to meet. We have infinite ability to awaken to the truths that call out from the earth. And in recognizing this, we must remember that God chose to remember the covenant and to know the Israelites in their suffering. We must ourselves choose to remember our covenant and to know the other peoples of the world in their suffering. The greatest principles of Torah our sages teach are love your neighbor as yourself, and this is the book of the descendants of Adam, meaning all people come from the same source, and therefore we must love all people as ourselves. And so today, as we celebrate our own freedom, let us turn our thoughts as well to those who are not free, to the Ukrainian people still striving to throw off the yoke of Russia, to the Palestinian people striving to freely celebrate Ramadan under an ongoing occupation, preventing them from worshiping at their holiest sites, to the Israeli people fighting and protesting as they fear the rollback of what they have had as dearly held rights, to our fellow Americans whose desire to embrace their true identities, to make themselves known and to know themselves, is being made illegal by the passage of anti-trans legislation, whose rights to have full say over their bodies have been decimated by anti-abortion laws, to those who are striving to become a part of America and are being held in detention indefinitely at our border, to Black Americans still seeking justice and equality, while some school districts ban teaching about slavery, to the indigenous peoples throughout the world displaced and brutalized by colonization, still fighting for their own redemption, to the ongoing desecration of our planet through the unwillingness of major industries to put the future of humanity above their bottom line. We must remember that we, in our time of freedom, are not to behave in the manner of the Egyptians who ignored the oppression of the Israelites. Let us use this holiday to not only remember our own freedom, but to remember and to know it is our responsibility to not be silent, to not allow willful ignorance to lead to the oppression of others, and to use our memories to fight for the freedom of all peoples. Chag Pesach Sameach.